Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brand Your Practice podcast, where you get to learn about branding and marketing and scaling your private practice. I'm Brent Stutzman, your host, and today we're going to be talking about owning and running not one, but two private practices. So, and to help me do that is Brian Garibaldi, owner of Clinical Care Consultants and Lake Cook Behavioral Health here in the Chicagoland area. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Hi there.
We're going to be talking about this. Just how crazy you are and owning two private practices.
My crazy endeavors, yes.
Yeah, and before we even started recording, you talked about getting this camper to go around the country during COVID with your family, and remodeling that whole thing.
Right.
And then now, interested in owning a pizza shop or something.
Yeah. That's just like entertaining ideas. Some ideas you just leave on the table and you go with other stuff.
Well, the reason why we got connected is because you reached out about some website video stuff. You saw some of my clients' video, and then I just had a really fun conversation with you. You're like a real entertaining guy.
Thanks.
I was like, I need you on the podcast because there's the clients I support, they just own one private practice, and that seems like enough for them. But I would love for you to kind of give us a little backstory of how you became a mental health professional and kind of your journey to
therapy empire. I kind of don't know how it happens sometimes, but I just suddenly I have a therapy empire. Let's see. Well, I was born in Texas. Now, how far back are we going? Let's see. What makes the most sense? I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry and biology. It's actually in chemistry. They tacked on in biology because I had a lot of biology classes or whatever. But I'm almost like a chemistry guy through. But who knows what you're doing in high school or even college? You're just trying to pick a route. You can work various jobs, but you have no idea career-wise what it's like to do a job or like even chemistry. You think, oh, that's a specific route. There's a whole umbrella of every subject, about 1,000 different kind of positions that require different skills or require different personality traits, or if you like it. So, we just kind of pick what we're doing. So I have this degree in chemistry, and then I didn't want to be a bench chemist, bachelor's degree bench chemist. I don't know if that was my forte. So I went to graduate school.
Is a bench chemist someone just sits at a bench and does chemistry?
I don't even really know because I never worked. No, I kind of did. But yeah, you just you're doing work in a lab, maybe for a corporation or something, or a smaller. Look, I never worked in that industry that much. I did internships and worked in academia. I worked in labs there. And I was like, is this what I'm doing all day? I couldn't see myself doing that. And I didn't know other areas. So I went to graduate school. So I wasn't sure. Let's just get more education. And I was in a graduate school program that was a really cool topic called medicinal chemistry, which is drug design, which is how drugs hit receptor sites and how ibuprofen actually works in your body and why it's different than why it's different like aspirin, or how morphine is different than heroin, because the molecule is super close. Most people would look at it, not even look at how they're different, but they have that and codeine have way different impacts, but they're just structurally different. It's really cool stuff, but I didn't do that well. I don't want to down the program a little bit. I don't know if the program was the best for me. It was a little weird. I was the only American kid there, but it was I didn't do well. I was on academic probation the first semester.
Wow, just.
Right. I think half the kids were. I was just the lowest.
There's a room they all put you in, and you're looking around, and it's how bad is it?
So we just jump into my epic failures. Is that good?
That's fine.
And it's easy now that I'm kind of through a lot of it, but and I mean, this totally overlaps into how I do therapy. When I work with kids in college or school and they're not good at something, man, I'm I have epic failures. I like to say. Right. I basically, I had AP credit in chemistry, had an interest in it. My dad's a retired surgeon in healthcare, medical area. Went to college, got my degrees there in chemistry, biology, went to graduate school, and then was in academic probation for a year and a half. And then I left before they kicked me out. Right. So
I quit before you fired me.
I probably could have got my probation extended, but I was just this is enough. I was pretty miserable there.
Got it.
So I left, and
you went into therapy for yourself.
Well,
No?
I was in therapy for a little bit there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because I would like do really well in some classes and then not, and then performance can be highly connected to anxiety. So it's the first time I saw like a psychologist. It took some assessment, psychological assessment and stuff, and I did pretty well. And so all that, I got a job with my friends at this technology company.
Okay.
It was in pharmacy technology, so it looked like my background applied. But it didn't really. The fact that I was more into computers and stuff as a kid really applied more. So all that education really didn't mean crap.
Yeah.
They hired me.
So you're in a tech company, and then, so how does that bridge into becoming a
It
therapist?
doesn't really directly bridge, but I think it's important to go. That was the first time I really felt successful. Like at school, I struggled. Like, I don't think I would really qualify for ADHD, but like I for sure have some traits, hyperactive, distractibility traits that makes like performing with the level of students I was performing with at like very difficult. So, I kind of felt bad, couldn't focus on school, and was always like beating myself up about like, why can't I just study more and stuff like that. And so when I started working, I really like got my feet, like as an adult, got my feet under me as far as like, being good at something, making some money, having benefits, like that really built my like foundation moving forward. And I like to think it provided me some space to like really think, like you get a regular paycheck to think, what do I want to do here? And so I did really well at that position generally. Like I promoted quickly. But I was always like, is this really what I want to do? The first few months I was always planning to go to another chemistry type job, but then eventually I was like, this is a ridiculous idea. I wasn't happy. So like, what do I want to do? And I have a friend that was in school to be a therapist. And I was kind of into the material as much or more than she was. I was like, oh, this is like super interesting. And I started taking some classes. And then that's kind of how it started. I wanted to do something that was more like meaningful, like when I was older and I looked back at my life and really helped people or contributed more positively to people's life. And I'm not saying technology doesn't do that, but it's way more indirect. It's way more indirect effects. So
got it.
That was my motivations to doing it in the first place.
So that's really helpful. All right. So you then just started consuming some psychology literature, and then you just took some classes, like grad school classes, or? Well,
I didn't qualify. Like I applied to be in the program at the Illinois School of Professional Psychology, but I didn't qualify. They rejected me. They said I don't have the right classes, so I had to take some undergraduate classes because I have a chemistry degree.
Yeah, that's right.
I only had like general psychology or something like that. So
bunch of prereqs, and then you get in.
Yeah, but it was good though. Like I took a class a semester, using prerequisites. Do I really want to do this? It was like a feeling out, ramping up. How into this material really am I? And so that with my master's probably took 5-6 years.
Really?
5 years? Yeah.
While working at the tech company.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I was doing a lot of things at the same, kind of like now, but in a weirder kind of way. So yeah, and eventually I was working, and then I was more full-time in school for my master's and was working. And I was kind of moving up in technology. So right when I had to do my internship, my last year, I would go to Walgreens Health Initiative, which was the insurance side of Walgreens, and I was called the subject matter expert, like business analyst. So I was like one step below the project manager, but I was like running the project for the first few months. So I would go to there in the morning. So like noon, where I was like in charge of all these meetings. I don't even know, it was like a $2-3 million project, and like, and then after that, at like noon or 1, I would head to my internship in Barrington for Barrington Youth and Family Services, and then I was like this intern, and it was like, I'm trying to like lay low, or I'm an intern getting clinical experience.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I was like launching this technology company on the side too. So, and I lived in Oak Park, so it was like driving and. Yeah, it was crazy for a little bit.
Okay, so
story crazy enough for you.
So now, I'm tracking. So then internship's over. Then you have to get your hours in.
Right.
Are you a LCPC or?
I'm an LCPC.
LCPC.
Yes.
Okay.
So I did my internship at Barrington Youth and Family Services. Under the director Rochelle Schulman, who's a very wise social worker and like for sure one of my clinical mentors. And eventually I was hired on staff at there. There were some transitions there. Rochelle called me. She's like, I need help with this.
You're like, yeah, I'll take a huge pay cut.
I was like, oh, yeah.
And
the amount of pay cut I had leaving technology to like
help people.
Like, not quite 6 digits, but like, like that's what we're talking.
Yeah.
But I kind of knew that was the plan, and my lifestyle never ramped up to like
living
do that.
Yeah.
I live frugally, which my dad makes fun of me sometimes, like how frugal I am.
Yeah. Your dad.
Yeah, but it creates that opportunity.
It's usually the opposite around, where we're like criticizing our parents and grandparents being frugal,
right.
but yeah.
Right, but like it worked. I knew that was coming down the pipe, and I knew that was the plan, and so you get your hours, and from there I'll just figure it out.
So how did you come to owning your first private practice then?
Once I was licensed, me and someone else opened my practice.
Oh, just like that? Like you just like licensed and it's time?
Yeah, after I was fully licensed. I don't know, it was a natural transition for me. I started a technology company in 2004, 2005. We're not talking me and like 100 employees. Like me, sometimes a few other people, because I had a product in pharmacy technology. Actually, one pharmacy still uses them, and that technology side. So, I like was launching this product at the same time I was doing this stuff. So I knew how to do some startup type stuff. And so I kind of wrapped my brain around that. And I knew the real money was in like, I could do the same job I was pretty much doing in Barrington, but for myself and making real money.
Yeah, right.
So, and I love Barrington Youth and Family Services. Like I still check in like what's going on with them and their role in the community. There's kind of had private practice vibe, but still community vibe.
Okay,
even though Barrington's a generally well-off place, there's still lots of people with need compared to there and Carpentersville, and did a lot of sliding scale or pro bono work that they did for clients. So like that's still that part of not-for-profit's still like a part of me. Yeah. So, so I had ideas, maybe even launching projects like that in the future. But
so you started your own private practice with a buddy or a friend or something,
right?
And then what was the name? Is that one?
It was called no, it wasn't under these. It was called Arlington Counseling Services.
Arlington Counseling Services,
right?
I feel like I know that.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe if you do a web search for me, I probably have some domains that. But there's a few practices like with very similar names.
Okay.
So like Arlington Counseling Center, counseling.
Okay.
But it was us with a few rooms, like 2-3 therapists.
Okay. And so what happened then? Because you're no longer part of that.
Right. What happened to that is like Lake Cook Behavioral Health had the original owners were like starting to reach, they don't want to manage stuff anymore. And Lake Cook Behavioral Health was owned by a larger profit called One Hope United. I'm in a lot of details here. I don't think I'm contractually breaking anything.
Okay.
But like they were looking for people to like help run the place. And they needed help. And I got a cold call.
Really? And they're like, just come run it and we'll...
No, they were interviewing lots of people.
Oh, okay.
And they talked to me, and I mean, this is the short version of the story.
Sure. They talked to you and they're like,
I
we
won
want you
them
to come
over.
like a managing director type thing?
They need someone to really take over the place. They would
Okay.
keep some ownership, but like...
Okay, so we need you to... All right,
they
so
need
we'll
an
give
owner,
you ownership.
They need an owner to come in, manage the place, handle it, take care of the people there. There's 5 locations.
Oh, yeah. So that's okay.
So compared to my scale, but the funny thing is that like I wasn't intimidated by that for a few reasons. I probably should have been, but maybe I'm just arrogant. I don't know why. I don't know. But like my strengths in running a business I feel like they're kind of universal. Like I'm a little obsessed with efficiency. Operationally, I like to figure out how stuff works. I'm kind of frugal. I kind of want to take care of staff. I'm definitely not a top-down director, a top-down owner. I see myself as supporting my staff. Like I work for them kind of.
Yeah.
And so I think I bring a lot to that, but especially back-end stuff, I think I bring especially a lot to how to work efficiently and especially how to leverage technology. So just like the whole record size, like the whole records, like entering in clinical records, the whole billing process. I worked in pharmacy where that stuff is complicated.
Yeah.
Pharmacy billing is real time. Like you know what your copay is right when you go in there, right?
Yeah.
Mental health is batch. It's like it's brainless to me. It's like we batch a file and we send it. So leveraging technology, how to operate. Like I had no worries about that because I I worked a lot on that in technology and the workflow kind of things. So I could build a lot of efficiencies in things that essentially make staff happy. So
Right. Okay, so now I'm gonna take a different direction now, just because now I'm curious about the technology side. Because you mentioned in our conversation months ago that one of your practices uses the technology that you built for billing and those types of things.
Right. Our medical record software, I pretty much coded most of it. Yeah.
So like majority of my clients use something like Simple Practice.
Yeah, Simple Practice. Yeah,
make it real easy.
I review them all the time.
Do you?
I'm curious how they operate. I'm curious other software. Because
it's real. It's kind of a growing space, and it just seems like Simple Practice to me. It's well funded. They do a lot of
they do telehealth. I don't mean to do a Simple Practice. I may be a competitor with them eventually. I'm like, no, they do telehealth. They it does a lot of things. They're online forms. Yeah. A lot of it's really well done.
So the technology you built then is basically dealing with a lot with the insurance companies and.
Right. It's EMR. It's medical record software. So entering in clients, tracking their client records.
Okay.
Like billing, the whole thing.
Got it.
We don't do telehealth isn't built in yet, like video, but like eventually we will. But I know it's not even on the market really.
Yeah.
We're just using it internally. But I developed it that's a whole other funny story. Yeah. So Barrington Youth and Family Services, they were all paper records.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And so they weren't even the staff weren't even on the internet. All right. And this was 2005, 2000, the staff people, and they had Wi-Fi, just nobody was on it. And I'm like, so I'm there because sometimes in intern, you're just there's a lot of dead time. You're not doing anything. And I'm like, man, I need some internet here. And so I realized from upstairs, I could connect to the downstairs internet. But all this kind of ruffled feathers goes, and I'm a technology guy. That's came from my job at noon, remember? I was running the project. But all this ruffled feathers, oh no, Brian gave everybody internet. I'm like, here's the Wi-Fi password. Did you know it was here? And they're like, no.
Wow.
Yeah, that caused trouble. Eventually I proposed, hey, you guys need record software to do your billing and it's all
save lots of money, save lots of time,
stuff like this. This is the kind of stuff you need. So I started, I was into teaching myself how to code then.
Okay.
And so I was I started building and you need something like this.
Yeah.
And then I kind of prototyped it and they said, okay, let's use this.
And then, okay. Wow. Okay. So that's kind of the origin story of that. And then you bring it over to,
Art to Counseling, then Lake Cook eventually. Yeah.
Behavioral. And then how big is Lake Cook Behavioral Health?
We have 4 locations, 25 therapists or so. Right.
And then
mainly northwest suburbs. We have Evanston and an office in Evanston also.
Now tell me, then the second practice,
Clinical Care Consultants.
Did you buy that, or
Yes, I took over, bought that a year and a few months ago.
Okay, man, I got questions on that too. All right, so let's back. I want to make sure we cover. So
if you're trying to help your audience how to do this, maybe that's insightful here. But I mean, some of this stuff is just luck, man.
Yeah.
I feel let's go back to my dad making fun of me. I mean, he doesn't make fun of me, but he was always Brian, your interests, because I have a wide variety of interests. Sure. Your interests don't combine.
Yeah.
They're technology, mountain biking. I used to fight. I tell you that. I have a big martial arts background.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I have a traditional martial arts background, but was sport fighting and kickboxing. And I was in this counseling degree. None of the stuff mixes here. And then suddenly it all started to mix. And Ara started to my experience in technology got me this Lake Cook Behavioral Health opportunity.
Oh, interesting. They're we love this idea.
They're how do you do billing? And I'm the software does it? Let me diagram. Let me show you. Here's how this works. Clinical records connect to the billing, which for a lot of people is just dumb and obvious.
Yeah.
But for people not in the loop, and so I spoke a lot to that, and so they're oh wow, knows operation.
Brian's a visionary. He is the man.
Well, it looks like that, but most people in the industry are there's nothing visionary about it. And I'm the software does the billing. Now you still have to manage billing and problem claims and stuff. And all right, I don't know if I get back to your question. What was your question?
Well, I was Okay, so we talked about I knew this interview was going to be like this. We're just going to be all over the place. So the two practices. So tell me a little bit. Okay, so how do you manage? So what is as a private practice owner of two private practices, like how do you manage that? Tell us you got to have a team, at least somewhat.
We have a small team. Mm-hmm. Like my main person, her name's Katie Gifford. She goes by title office manager. She should really be called director of operations.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have right now it's weird with COVID. We've kind of don't have many other administrative staff right now because some of the new people we hire like rolled off and stuff like that. But really it's Katie Gifford, my office manager handles a lot of the day-to-day troubleshooting, connecting with staff and things like that. It all has to do with how scalable your procedures and processes are. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you look at anything you do during the day, like an intake, a new client coming in or a new patient client, whatever you call them, or a billing process or whatever it is, anything that takes too much labor or a lot of hours is something's broken. Things need to be streamlined and effective. I could literally probably add 3 offices and maybe just add a half-time person or something because it's all about streamlining stuff, hopefully using technology and software. Now, would that spread me out as a director and like I've spent a lot of time lately just meeting with people and relationships and stuff like that. But yeah, it's so much about efficient processes and most therapists aren't into what I'm into. Mm-hmm. All right. So there's this thing here. I'm not like built like a lot of like, and again, therapists are built all sorts of ways.
Right.
But like, I'm going to total stereotype here. Some people are very soft, or I think sometimes people who go into social work might be a little more like, so emotion and softer focused than like maybe a clinical psychologist who's like maybe doing assessment. There's different personalities that tend to a certain degree. I'm totally generalizing.
Oh yeah.
But like, so I'm a certain type of person built a certain kind of way that can manage business, and it's not for everyone.
Right.
So I really leverage my strengths to like for operational efficiency. Like if we're doing the same dumb process over and over, I go, how do we stop this from happening? Like, how do we develop a process? Because I built the software, we can even tweak the software around it. Like, for some HMOs, sometimes we have to send in authorizations. I built in like an authorization tracker. You have 6 left. You have 5 left. You have 4 left. Here's the form. It faxes out. Like, so I'm not manually doing anything. Right. I'm not keeping track and not getting paid. The software does that.
Right.
You know exactly how many you have. Here's the darn form. It's going to pre-populate as best it can.
So, okay. So, all right. Another side. So this is something that in the private practices I support, I provide a lot of operational kind of guidance, I should say.
Right.
In fact, I'm even in the process of hiring an intake coordinator to support up to 3 of my private practices.
Right.
Because the way some of my agreements work is like revenue sharing.
Right.
So in the beginning,
I heard that about your model. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanted this video from you. Revenue sharing? I'm like, you're like, no way. But other people that might be like,
right. If they're just starting out, it doesn't cost them really anything. But if it's a good fit, I'll be in there for the long term and I'll help with the marketing. But there's also this operational side where I maybe have an intake coordinator that supports a couple of private practices and just we streamline the processes and get those intakes through.
Totally in demand. So I talk with my Katie, my office manager, and we could easily spin off a few businesses here. Sometimes we're like, let's not take this on, but a lot of people need like administrative support in the form of like intakes, and they need like billing support. Now, we said the software does the billing, a lot of people. I mean, some people need just total billing support, like can't bill at all, and they're just like, and they want to pay you 7 or 8% or whatever. But most people, that's not the case. The software is doing the billing. They need someone to troubleshoot problem claims, maybe follow up, maybe do eligibility checking. I don't know. Like they need to handle exception case billing stuff and administrative. So I had this concept that we launch a service that's because a few things. One is your front end administration, answering the phone for you, doing intakes. 2 does like billing supports, that kind of thing, because that's what smaller private practices really need. We haven't like launched this yet, but you're talking about doing that front part of it.
Yeah, actually, that front part's really important, and maybe and maybe it goes into something like that one.
Right.
But it right now, I mean, I imagine your private practice experience just in the last few months, just a flood. Like,
right.
The mental health crisis is so crazy.
Right.
Now.
Everyone's busy.
And so
everyone's full.
So just getting that flow, even if it's managing a like a wait list,
right?
If you have one of those,
yeah. So some people keep it. Yeah.
And here's what I found out is there's two strengths that a private practice owner needs. I think there's lots of strengths, but two of them. One is your network.
Right.
Where can you go to hire somebody when you need someone?
You mean a clinician or
okay. Yeah, do you have a network of clinicians you can go to and say, hey, I'm looking to hire somebody. Do you know anyone?
Right.
Or how connected are you to the universities to maybe get a new graduate in or something like that? So there's that network. And then the second network the second problem would be, now I'm actually trying to remember it. I think it was the intake. Because what I found is that if I do my job well, which I think I have, you get a ton of intakes. And that's another problem. It's like now you have a backlog. How do you actually manage that and not let them fall through the cracks? So at least that front end part I think is really important. And the billing one is like a handful of my clients are private pay, so they don't even deal with that.
Yeah, I call it the healthcare elite. Yeah. Private pay. What does it take to keep a good flow of clients and be private pay? Holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, plenty of people do it, but like to me, especially because I come from not-for-profit, just like...
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's part of it is a philosophical side and also just like a business decision. Like I don't want to manage a lot of extra stuff. And people who have dealt with insurance before, if they cannot deal with it, they would rather do that. It takes a little time, but it's we've been able to do it. Or you're a hybrid where you're all private pay except for maybe Blue Cross Blue Shield who reimburses the most.
And clinical care consultants takes less insurances. Lake Cook Behavioral Health is like we take everything but Medicaid, really.
Yeah.
But clinical care consultants has always been just a little smaller range. Before there was a reimbursement discrepancy, it's kind of closed a lot from insurances, and we're not allowed to talk about actual rates, but but they've closed that. Some of the insurances that didn't pay as much, so it's less of an issue. But yeah, it was just like Blue Cross Blue Shield only, and it was a big enough insurance where it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
So
software streamline your process. You have a rock star
operations person.
Yeah. And then so you have operations that oversee both?
Yeah, it's kind of it's the same staff.
Okay. And then is your intake coordination like one team but oversees both practices or
Yeah, just Katie. She takes on intakes.
Oh wow.
And we have some gaps in intake. Like we don't have online forms even right now. It's like it's soon, the next few months.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. All right. So she is.
But that's good. That's one of the main parts of her position, and the other processes are so streamlined.
Yeah.
Like we don't even realize maybe how other people deal with, because some of the stuff is just super efficient.
Yeah. Oh man. That's great.
Yeah, I should probably be a consultant to consult either smaller or bigger organizations. So because I don't have going on. Yeah. So because really that's just my strength. I have operational strength. I'm really not strong at marketing. I'm really not. We do plenty. We've talked about marketing stuff and even Google ads and what am I doing with this Google? I've stopped most of my Google ads. You know what I mean? So I've leveraged that a lot. I'm a total advocate of Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. What does Gary V say? He's like, he says lots of stuff. Yeah. I love the guy. He's concrete. Yeah. He's focused on empathy, kindness in your practice as a business guy. I mean, that's great.
Straight talk.
But he's straight, just concrete but kind. But he's like, you got to play to your strengths. He's like, everybody's trying to sell you on your weaknesses all the time. And for you to get awesome at something you're weak at, this is not an efficient use of time. You have to mitigate it so it doesn't screw you.
Yeah.
But focus on what you're strong at. And so I started to focus on strong at. I'm horrible at day-to-day administrative tasks. Yeah. Like, it's not stimulating enough. I clearly have some stimulation, ADHD like traits, right? Yeah. I need something to be a certain stimulating, but I have a great administrator who handles that stuff and is strong at that.
Yeah.
So I put somebody in that position that does that, because I can't do everything, and I'm not that great at marketing. It's on my radar. I got all these videos recorded. I haven't even just posted yet. I got 20 videos.
Wow.
I haven't even posted them yet, just because it's like, I even got it done. It's just like not on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more obsessed with, like, did they have to enter this field in every time and not needed? Like, it's a disease, but it's focused like on certain areas, and so I run with that and expand that. And
Susan had my wife in her podcast. She had a clinical psychologist who does ADHD testing. So they had this great conversation about children and ADHD, and they said it's not that they have there's attention deficit in everything. It's just in some things. And in other things, they have incredible attention.
Right, called hyperfocus.
Yeah, right.
It's an ADHD superpower.
Yeah, it really is. And so that's probably...
Right. Yeah, for me, ADHD is so much about, like, it's so much about stimulus and your brain's stimulus need. There's so many people who can probably put this more articulately, but, like, people's stimulus need and the need to meet that stimulus.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's just what distractibility is. Your brain just finds something more stimulating and on the hunt for it.
Yep.
Knows whether it's really you're going to meet that need, but yeah. Anyway, so
so my next curious question is My curiosity. Now that you mentioned it, how do you buy a private practice?
How do you buy one? Well, this was
your second one.
This was through networking.
Okay.
So that's a big part of it. Like, in some ways, I'm also horrible at networking. Which is funny, because I think I'm, like, the friendliest person ever. Like, I'll talk to strangers at the, like, grocery store. I'm just, like, bad at them. My friend Wendy, she's awesome at networking. Awesome. I'm going to forward this to her. She's, like, great at networking. She runs a private practice. Ivy Lane down in Naperville, guys. No. That's the name of her practice.
Okay.
Give it a shout out. Yeah, like... She's just great at that. She has a little more hospital, like residential background, or and like I never went that route because I like changed careers and I went right into private practice as part of my background. So, but I still try and keep contact with a lot of practice owners, like other directors, other people who do the kind of job I do. I think a lot of director or owners don't talk to other owners that much, and so. That's the only way we, like, who knows what we experience. There's a, only select handful about, like, what we go through, especially with bigger practices. And so, yeah, across the parking lot with me was clinical care consultants at that time. Ross Rosenberg, who's a specialist in narcissism and codependency, released a few books, and he has his practice. And, it just started coming up.
Just, hey, do you want to buy my practice?
I think he wanted to focus on other things. He does a lot of online training, seminars. He travels the world. He's like goes to Europe. He's on TV and crap. He's like he wants to focus on that. He's deep into his his theory about how to treat narcissism and writing books. And I think that's really like his passion, what he wants to do. And I think like running a practice was like wearing on him.
So was he like, okay, I like for you to be majority owner, part owner, or take the whole thing. Just I'll receive.
Well, I don't want to get into details. I don't know which one he like wants to reveal, but it just I think he wanted to do something else, and he built this, and I was there. He's like, "What do you think of this?" And it just fits onto our fits into our model. We could run multiple offices. I couldn't even run more if I was really like wanted to. And I feel like one of my strengths is just building connections with the therapists. And as someone else told me, like my job is to win when I come in a practice is to win the hearts and minds. And I just feel like I'm pretty real and pretty genuine, and I'm just like I try and be a service to people, and it just was a good match. And there
you go.
That sounds so easy, but it's in some ways it's the most difficult thing ever. In some ways it's easy, but I feel like I'm just kind of built for it, and the stressors of it, and realizing that again, this is total Gary Vee-ism. I'm the bad news guy. People come to me with bad news. If my phone rings before, like, let's say I have a meeting to schedule Monday, and I get a call this week on Thursday, a phone, because people to email and stuff like that. Like I know something's up. Like the internet's down at a location. I'm the bad news guy, and that's what I signed up for. And you got to like embrace that. The buck stops with me, and I'm just built for it.
Wow, because that's a lot. Now you told me before we started recording, it's like, I'm actually home a lot.
I'm home a lot.
You're home a lot with the kids and the family, and so
right.
And so, what does a week look like then for you as it relates to managing?
I'm gonna feel like a total slacker, and I mean this is very interesting to me because this is like how people operate. I feel like I could be doing like I feel like I could be functioning. Maybe my staff shouldn't hear this. I feel like I could be doing even more or functioning like on a work-wise, putting even more time and energy in. But I'm sacrificing that right now because I have little kids and I want to be home with them a lot.
Sure.
And they're the cutest ever. And
it's a great age.
Right. My kids are 3 and almost 5, and I dedicate a lot of time to that. I still spend a lot of time working, but I'm so interested in like how people work and how people operate. It's like enthralling to me.
Yeah.
And for me, I like to say, and I'm just throwing numbers out here, getting 6 or 8 important things done in any month is far more important than what I did in any 6 or 8 any 6 hours of work. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, am I just going to sit and grind for 6 or 8 hours? Like, that's not my style. I'm more of an idea guy who has certain strengths, and I'm not going to sit and grind at a desk for 8 hours. Maybe I could get even more done, but like 6 or 8 project stuff done in a month really moves me forward.
Yeah.
And part of our growth, because we've had great growth the last few years, it's not just because of my staff being full. It's other things like, let's just say in any month, all I did was get a rate increase by Optum. Let's just say that's the only real project I've done.
Yeah.
That month was worth it,
and
maybe way more important than any other stuff. So me realizing what's important, again, Gary Vee words, what's important, and focusing on that gets me results. And not getting lost in the micro day-to-day stuff, which I need to do and be responsive with and everything.
Right.
But focusing on those meta important things and not lost in other stuff. I think there's stuff that adds to my efficiency. I really stay in my lane. Especially if I'm successful, what works? Do I look at other practices? Do I this and that? Like I look, but like I probably have one of the bigger practices in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
I don't really know exactly. I've gotten curious, but it's not a curious of like envy what they're doing over there. I'm like, I wonder like how big this turned out. But like I really blinders on, stay in my lane as far as like what I need to do, what helps clinical practice, how do I help support my staff. I look outside going, their software is telehealth. That would be like good to add in as an efficiency or something like that. But I really just bring it back to my lane. So spend a lot of time with my kids, and I focus on these bigger picture things that I feel like make a difference.
That's incredibly wise. Staying in your lane, especially as someone who's as busy as you are with the 2 practices with your kids, and being available for your kids, staying home. That's a good lane to be in.
Right, it's an important lane for me.
Yeah.
Am I a little less responsive? I've made that decision, and if Brian takes you 2 days to get back to you instead of 1. I've probably been slow to get back to you sometimes. Like I'm like, he's a vendor. Like stuff drops off sometimes. Again, back to Gary Vee.
Yeah.
Gary Vee says they ask Gary, how do you like prioritize and get to everything? You're like, I prioritize and get to what I get to, and I hold myself accountable, but I don't like judge myself. I'm not critical of myself. Okay, I was slow to get back to Brent's.
That's what happened.
And I was like focused on my kids, being present and not like working when I'm with kids the whole time. And that's the sacrifice I'm making now. And I have to fully like accept that and the consequences that come with that. And the end. Someone's mad at me, sorry.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
I'm sorry, I'm just ranting here, guys. I know
well, this was me kind of just questions that I've been looming, and questions and kind of problems I've been trying to think through and trying to solve for for clients, because there are a lot of pain points and there's a lot of inefficiencies. But if you're going to be a successful practice and be able to serve a lot of people, but also keep your clinicians full and things like that, there's just a lot of things that you have to consider that most private practice owners don't.
Right.
And if they do, it's a little too late, and there's just lots of pain points.
Right. And I made a video of this that I should really put out. I think like where you want to be in your growth like is a big deal. And it's really important to know yourself. If you just want to be yourself in a private practice, you can make great money and not have outside response. Your clients, a little administrative work. Fine. If you want an office where they share the cost, like 2 offices where it's shared, that's fine. Mm-hmm. You just have to know every step there makes some more administrative work. You know, if you have as soon as you add a second location, it's just like, all right. But you have to know like what makes you happy and where you want to be. You could just be yourself, like building to private pay or just Blue Cross Blue Shield and be happy. And that's like most important. Like you don't need like a therapy empire like mine. I use that just jokingly because it's ridiculous. Like I don't even know what happened. I say like might not make everybody happy, might make a lot of people miserable.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like the first step people need to do. Like, even me, I'm like, do I really need another practice? Like, all right, Brian, it's getting out of control here. Like,
right. Yeah. Maybe when the kids are teenagers, maybe.
Right. No, even then not. Anyway, but that's a whole, I could rant about that too. But that's, I think, a great starting point for people. Like, what do you really want to do? What makes them happy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Well, where can people go to find out more about you?
Me, let's see. I'm probably easiest to, probably my email, Brian. I like my email, Brian at lakecookbehavioral.com. Lakecookbehavioral.com is the websites, and that's probably the best way.
All right, great. Well, thanks for joining me on the show.
No problem.
And if you found this conversation useful, subscribe to the podcast, and please join me again next time for the Brand Your Practice podcast.